Number 10, 1970 Ford Torino Cobra. Quarter mile time, 13.99 seconds. Among Ford muscle cars, the Mustang is generally considered to rule the performance roost, but the Fairlane-based Torino was another fast offering during its time on the market. Motor Trend named the Torino Cobra its car of the year for 1970, and that's for good reason. While the Ford looked unassuming on the outside, it was a born supercar slayer under the hood. Powering it was a 429 cubic inch 385 series, big block V8 producing 360 horsepower in Thunder jet guise, 360 horsepower in Cobra jet guise, and 375 horsepower if you checked the drag pack option and went for the Super Cobra jet. With a 4-speed manual transmission and a set of 3.91 gears, Motor Trend achieved a 13.99 elapsed time at 101 miles per hour in a middling Cobra jet during a roundup of Ford's 1970 Torino models. As if that wasn't impressive enough, 60 miles per hour came in a mere 5.8 seconds. Want one today? A decent driver quality Torino Cobra will run you between $25,000 and $40,000. While a numbers matching Super Cobra jet in excellent condition can reach $60,000 to $80,000. Number 9, 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W30. Quarter mile time, 13.8 seconds. The 442 W30 was Oldsmobile's answer to the muscle car arms race, and they brought serious firepower to the fight. While the standard 442 was already a beast, the W30 package transformed it into something truly special. A factory-built street racer that could embarrass just about anything at a stoplight. The W30 package started with Oldsmobile's 455 cubic inch big block, officially rated at 370 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. But that was just the beginning. Engineers added a fiberglass hood with functional ram air scoops, an aluminum intake manifold, a more aggressive camshaft, and even red plastic inner fender liners designed to improve cold airflow to the engine. It sounds crazy, but those plastic fenders actually worked, dropping intake temperatures by up to 20 degrees. Motor Trend took a W30 equipped with a 4-speed manual and 3.91 gears to the track and ripped off a 13.8 second quarter mile at 104 miles per hour. 0 to 60 came in just 5.7 seconds. But here's what made the W30 special. It was consistent. Run after run, it delivered the same brutal acceleration without breaking a sweat. That reliability made it a favorite among street racers who needed to win races, not just bench race at the drive-in. Oldsmobile built around 3,000 W30s in 1970, making them relatively common compared to some muscle cars on this list. But don't let that fool you into thinking they're cheap. A good W30 today will set you back between $60,000 and $90,000, with pristine, numbers-matching examples pushing $120,000. For a car that could hunt down Hemis and LS6 all day long, that's actually a bargain. Number 8, 1971 Plymouth GTX 446 pack. Quarter mile time, 13.72 seconds. By 1971, the writing was on the wall for muscle cars. Insurance companies were cracking down, emissions regulations were tightening, and manufacturers were already detuning engines. But Plymouth wasn't going down without a fight, and the GTX 440 plus 6 was their middle finger to the fun police. The 446 pack setup, that's 3 2-barrel carburetors, for those keeping count, produced 390 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. It might not have had the mystique of the Hemi, but ask any street racer from the era, and they'll tell you the 6-pack was the better street engine. More reliable, easier to tune, and almost as fast. Superstock magazine took a 71 GTX with the TorqueFlite automatic and 4.10 gears to the strip. The result, 13.72 seconds at 104 miles per hour, with a 60 miles per hour sprint of just 6.2 seconds. What made this even more impressive was that this was with the lower compression 1971 engine. The 1970 version was even quicker. Only about 135 GTXs got the 440 plus 6 in 1971, making this one of the rarest B-bodies you'll never see at a car show. Today's market, a solid GTX 440 plus 6 runs between $45,000 and $75,000, though the ultra-rare 71 models can command $85,000 or more in excellent condition. Number 7, 1970 Dodge Challenger RT 440 six-pack. Quarter mile time, 13.62 seconds. As you'll see throughout the rest of this list, Mopar muscle plays a major role whenever acceleration is the focus. And while the 1970 Challenger 440 six-pack might trail just slightly behind the quickest of the bunch, it's still a serious performer. Carcraft tested the car in late 1969, just ahead of the Challenger's official release, and blasted through the quarter mile in just 13.62 seconds at 104 miles per hour. The heart of this beast was a 440 cubic inch V8 topped with 3 two-barrel carburetors and a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. That setup cranked out 390 horsepower and a monstrous 490 pound-feet of torque. Sure, that's about 35 horsepower, less than the legendary 426 Hemi, but many enthusiasts found the six-pack to be the more street-friendly of the two. It didn't require constant tuning. It actually had vacuum for power brakes, and it cost about $800 less. Dodge built 1,640 standard Challenger 440 six-pack RTs for the 1970 model year, compared to only about 287 Hemi-powered versions. What really made the six-pack special was its Jekyll and Hyde personality. Cruise around with the center carb, and it was docile as a 318. But mat the throttle, and those outboard carbs would kick in with a mechanical violence that never got old. In today's market, a numbers-matching Challenger RT 440 six-pack in good condition will run you between $60,000 and $95,000. Convertibles add another $50,000 to $75,000. Number 6, 1970 Plymouth Superbird. Quarter mile time, 13.5 seconds. Plymouth built the Superbird with one goal in mind: convincing Richard Petty to return to their team after a stint with Ford. And in the process, they ended up creating one of the most memorable and impressive performance cars of the era. While the Superbird absolutely dominated in NASCAR, winning 8 races in 1970, it also proved itself as a serious machine on the street to transform the base Roadrunner into something more aerodynamic. Plymouth gave it a long, sloped nose cone and an unmistakable rear wing that stood a towering 23 inches high, tall enough to clear the trunk when it was open. Car and Driver tested a 440 six-pack Superbird and managed a 13.5 second quarter mile at 105 miles per hour. But here's something most people don't know. The street version's aerodynamics actually hurt it in the quarter mile. That nose and wing were designed to work at 150 plus miles per hour on NASCAR super speedways. Below 80 miles per hour, they just added weight and drag. NASCAR required manufacturers to build at least 1,920 street versions for homologation. Plymouth built exactly 1,920, then destroyed the tooling. Today, these winged warriors trade hands for serious money. A 440 Superbird in decent shape starts around $150,000 to $180,000. A six-pack version, $200,000 to $275,000. And if you find a Hemi Superbird, one of only 135 made, you're looking at $400,000 to $600,000. Number 5, 1970 Buick GS 455 Stage 1. Quarter mile time, 13.38 seconds. The GS 455 Stage 1 is one of the most underrated muscle cars of all time, probably because Buick buyers weren't the type to bench race at the local drive-in. But Motor Trend knew what was up when they tested this car. Motor Trend tested the car in 1970 and ran the quarter mile in just 13.38 seconds at 105.5 miles per hour. That blistering run earned it the title of the quickest American production muscle car Motor Trend had ever tested up to that point. Let that sink in. Faster than the Hemi Cuda, faster than the LS6 Chevelle, faster than everything. Now, like many automakers of that era, Buick likely played down the car's true potential to keep insurance companies at bay. Officially, the Stage 1 was rated at 360 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque, which was only a 10 horsepower bump over the standard 4M5. But in reality, the Stage 1 was probably making 400 horsepower or more at the flywheel. That would certainly explain how it managed to rip from 0 to 60 in just 5.5 seconds flat and hit a top speed of around 115 miles per hour. The secret was in the heads, massive valves, better flowing ports, and a cam that kept pulling hard, past 5,000 revolutions per minute, when most big blocks were gasping for air. Want to own the fastest sleeper of 1970? A nice GS455 Stage 1, non-GSX, will cost you between $45,000 and $75,000 today. Number 4, 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner 426 Hemi, quarter mile time, 13.34 seconds. Plymouth's Roadrunner was a massive hit in its heyday, right behind the Chevrolet Chevelle in popularity, and it managed to sell over 84,000 units in 1969 alone. But we're not talking about the regular Roadrunner here. We're talking about the 743 buyers who checked option code E74 and got the elephant motor. Sure, its connection to the Warner Brothers cartoon gave it a playful edge, especially with features like the vacuum-operated air grabber hood and that unforgettable meep meep horn. But this Mopar machine was more than just a gimmick. When equipped with the Hemi, it was a legitimate street terror. In the December 1969 issue of Superstock magazine, testers pitted the Roadrunner 426 Hemi against the 440 six-pack version. The result? The Hemi-powered Roadrunner ripped through the quarter mile in just 13.34 seconds at 107.5 miles per hour. Like the rest of Mopar's Hemi legends, this Roadrunner came with an official rating of 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. But those who have put them on dynos know the truth. These engines were making closer to 500 horsepower. That was more than enough to launch it from 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds, which for its time was absolutely violent. The best part, Plymouth positioned the Roadrunner as the budget muscle car. At $3,785 for a Hemi version, it was the cheapest way to get 426 cubic inches of legendary performance. Today, a decent Hemi Roadrunner starts at $125,000 and can reach $200,000 for nice examples. Convertibles? Only 10 were made. If you find one, expect $400,000 plus. Number 3, 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454 LS6. Quarter mile time, 13.12 seconds. Today, the Chevrolet Chevelle SS 454 stands as a symbol of the golden age of American muscle cars, a reputation it earned the hard way with brutal straight-line speed and a design that still turns heads decades later. But the LS6 version, that was something special entirely. Under the hood of the legendary LS6 sat a beast of an engine, officially rated at 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque, the highest advertised horsepower figure of the classic muscle car era. But here's what made it legendary. This wasn't some peaky, high-strung race motor. The LS6 made power everywhere, pulling like a freight train from idle to redline. Now, when it comes to performance figures, Hot Rod clocked the Chevelle running the quarter mile in 13.44 seconds. Pretty impressive, right? But it gets better. CarCraft tested another LS6 and reported an even faster time, 13.12 seconds at 107.01 miles per hour. The difference? Gearing and traction. As Hot Rod explained, CarCraft's car was running 3.55 gears, while theirs had 4.10 gears, which technically should have been quicker. But thanks to better off-the-line traction, CarCraft posted the faster elapsed time. Only 4,475 LS6 Chevelles were built, and today they're the holy grail for Chevy collectors. A real, numbers-matching LS6 Chevelle? You're looking at $75,000 to $125,000 for a good driver. Pristine, documented examples can reach $175,000 to $225,000. Number 2, 1970 Dodge Challenger RT SE 426 Hemi. Quarter mile time, 13:10 seconds. If you're chasing one of the purest examples of old-school Hemi-powered muscle, it's hard to top the 1970 Dodge Challenger RT. While the iconic Cuda gets most of the spotlight these days, the Hemi-equipped Challengers are actually the rarer find. Dodge cranked out about 13,688 Challenger RT hardtop coupes that year, but only 287 of them came straight from the factory with the legendary 426 cubic inch Hemi under the hood. That's it, 287 cars. To put that in perspective, Ferrari built more cars in 1970 than Dodge built Hemi Challengers, officially rated at 425 horsepower with a monster 490 pound-feet of torque on tap. CarCraft managed to rip through the quarter mile in 13:10 seconds at 107.12 miles per hour, and that was in a Challenger RT fitted with a 4-speed manual and aggressive 4.10 gears. What made the Challenger special wasn't just the performance, it was the presence. This was the longest, widest, and most aggressive-looking pony car ever built. When you pulled up next to someone at a light in a Hemi Challenger, they knew exactly what was about to happen. And if they were smart, they didn't even try. Today, these cars regularly trade hands between $250,000 and $400,000 for nice examples. Convertibles? Only 9 were made with the Hemi. When they surface, expect $800,000 to over $1 million. Number 1, 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. Quarter mile time, 13:10 seconds. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is the legendary 1970 Hemi Cuda, a car that's as iconic as it is powerful. CarCraft magazine clocked this beast running the quarter mile in a blistering 13.10 seconds at 107.12 miles per hour. The same elapsed time as the Challenger, but the Cuda gets the nod for being a tenth quicker to 60 miles per hour and for creating the template that every muscle car since has tried to follow. At the heart of it all was the mighty 426 cubic inch Hemi V8 cranking out a factory-rated 425 horsepower and a massive 490 pound-feet of torque. But everyone knew Plymouth was lying through their teeth. Real-world testing showed these engines making closer to 500 horses. That was more than enough to rocket the Cuda from 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. Not bad at all for a street-legal car on bias-ply tires back in 1970. But the Hemi Cuda wasn't just about raw power. It had the looks to match. Its wide, aggressive stance was paired with razor-sharp body lines and that iconic shaker hood scoop that rose through the hood and moved with the engine. A blacked-out grille up front and a ducktail spoiler out back completed the look. And to make sure it turned heads wherever it went, Plymouth offered it in high-impact colors like Inviolate, Vitamin C Orange, and Sublime Green. Only 652 Hemi Cudas were built for 1970, making it not just a muscle car icon, but one of the rarest American performance cars ever made. Want to own the king? Better have deep pockets. A decent driver-quality Hemi Cuda starts at $300,000 to $400,000. Numbers matching, well-documented examples? Try $500,000 to $750,000. Convertibles? Only 14 were were made. 2 sold at auction recently. One for $4.8 million, another for $5.5 million. That's not a car anymore. That's an investment portfolio with a Hemi. And that's what makes the Hemi Cuda #1. It wasn't just the fastest muscle car of the 1970s by the numbers. It was the complete package. The look, the sound, the performance, and the legend. 50 years later, it's still the king. So there you have it, the 10 fastest 1970s muscle cars over the quarter mile, ranked by actual period correct testing from Motor Trend, CarCraft, and Hot Rod when these legends were brand new. Did we miss your favorite muscle car? Got a different opinion on the rankings? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your stories about these incredible machines. If you enjoyed this countdown, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We've got some incredible videos coming up, including the most unreliable luxury cars that'll cost you a fortune and the biggest automotive scandals manufacturers don't want you to know about. Until next time, keep that rubber on the road and that hammer down.